The father tried to make his son happy by arranging a dive into an underwater cave system that was definitely not for beginners. Although danger signs were posted along the endless dark tunnels, they hoped to make it out safely. This is the terrifying diving story of Darrin Spivey and Dillon Sanchez. On Christmas Eve in 2014, 35-year-old Darrin Spivey, a passionate scuba diver, decided to share his love for the underwater world with his 15-year-old son, Dillon. Darrin had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the deep and wanted to pass that passion on to his son. As an early Christmas gift, Darrin gave Dillon a set of scuba tanks, a gesture that was both exciting and a bit daunting for the young boy. Though Dillon wasn't as keen on diving as his father, he adored his dad and didn't want to let him down. So, despite his hesitation, he agreed to join Darrin on a special Christmas morning dive. The next day, Christmas morning, Darrin and Dillon set off early, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. They first arrived at their local dive site, only to find the gates locked. Not discouraged, Darrin suggested they try another spot he knew, a place that was always open to hunters, hikers, and divers. This location was tucked away in a remote wildlife management area in Central Florida, a hidden gem for those who knew where to look. After navigating winding back roads, they finally arrived at a secluded dirt lot beside a seemingly tranquil pond. As they got their gear ready, they walked along a wooden walkway that stretched from the parking area to the pond. Along the way, they passed numerous warning signs, cautioning that only expert divers should proceed. The pond was the entrance to Eagle's Nest, a notorious underwater cave system, known among the cave diving community as the Mount Everest of cave diving. Eagle's Nest was a maze of underwater passages with depths and dangers that could challenge even the most experienced divers. Beneath the tranquil surface of the pond lay a narrow entrance at the very bottom, leading to an underwater tunnel. This passage descends into darkness and is so tight that only one diver can pass through at a time. After about 100 feet, it opens up into a vast chamber known as the ballroom. This enormous pitch-black space, over 100 feet across, has walls that seem to disappear into the void. Even with the most powerful flashlight, divers can't see the walls, creating a disorienting and terrifying sense of isolation. The floor of the ballroom is marked by a grim Reaper sign warning to stop. Prevent your own death. Do not go any farther. Beyond this point, the cave splits into two corridors, some reaching depths of 300 feet, where the dangers multiply exponentially. In this video, we won't cover all the sections in detail, but the furthest point, located 1,200 feet away, is known as the Room of Dreams. It's a complex underwater maze that has claimed many lives over the years. Since 1981, at least 11 people have died while diving in Eagle's Nest. The danger was so apparent that from 1999 to 2003, there was a ban making it illegal to dive at the location. However, cave divers lobbied to have it reopened, arguing that with proper training and equipment, it could be safely explored. It was truly amazing for father and son to experience such beauty together, while also feeling the anxiety of what lay ahead. After a few minutes of slow, steady descent, they reached the giant ballroom. They had probably heard a lot about it before, but actually seeing it would have sent chills down their spines. The endless darkness seemed to go on forever. Darrin and Dillon decided to head toward the Room of Dreams. They knew the famous room was too far and too deep, so they aimed to reach at least part of the path, planning to stop at the first dangerous narrow V-shaped tunnel called the Pit. To get there, they had to descend to a depth of 230 feet, which, as it turned out, was a fatal mistake. Deep diving requires a specific mixture of gases in the air tanks to ensure safety. Normal compressed air, which consists of about 21% oxygen and 79% nitrogen, becomes dangerous at depths beyond 180 feet. At these extreme depths, the regular mix of gases starts to have harmful effects. Oxygen can become toxic under high pressure, leading to symptoms like dizziness, seizures, or even loss of consciousness. Nitrogen, on the other hand, can cause a condition known as nitrogen narcosis, which is often compared to being drunk underwater. This condition impairs judgment and coordination, making it difficult to recognize and react to dangerous situations until it's too late. To manage these risks, experienced deep divers use a special air mixture called trimix that includes helium in addition to oxygen and nitrogen. Helium helps to counteract the toxic effects of oxygen and reduces the chances of nitrogen narcosis, allowing divers to explore greater depths more safely. However, Darrin and Dillon were using regular compressed air in their tanks, unaware of the significant dangers this posed as they ventured deeper into the cave system. Their lack of the appropriate gas mixture added to the risks they faced in the treacherous environment. As they descended past 180 feet, the effects of the compressed air would have begun to take hold. The nitrogen in their blood would have started to make them feel euphoric and overconfident. Their judgment, already compromised by their lack of proper training for this type of dive, would have become even more impaired. Meanwhile, the high partial pressure of oxygen at that depth would have started to affect their central nervous systems. They might have experienced tunnel vision, ringing in their ears, or muscle twitches, all signs of oxygen toxicity that they likely didn't recognize or understand. Despite these physiological challenges, Darrin and Dillon pressed on, reaching a staggering depth of 233 feet. At this point, they were in serious trouble. The air in their tanks, which should have been life-giving, had become a silent killer. Dillon, being younger and less experienced, likely started showing signs of distress first. Seeing his son struggle, Darrin would have been filled with a mix of fear and determination to get them both to safety. In a desperate attempt to help, Darrin deployed a long breathing hose, allowing Dillon to breathe from his tank. This selfless act might have given Dillon a few more precious moments of air, but it also sped up the depletion of Darrin's own supply. In their oxygen-starved, nitrogen-narcotic state, Darrin and Dillon may have lost their way in the vast, dark ballroom. The silt kicked up by their panicked movements would have further reduced visibility, making it even harder to find their way out. Hours passed above the surface, and as the day began to fade, Darrin's fiancée grew increasingly worried when she didn't receive the promised call. Concerned, she drove to Eagle's Nest and found Darrin's car still parked, but there was no sign of the two divers. Fearing the worst, she contacted the authorities, who quickly sent a team of professional divers to search for Darrin and Dillon. The rescue divers arrived and, aware of the dangers ahead, cautiously descended into the dark waters of the pond. They followed the narrow tunnel into the ballroom, holding onto the guideline that was their lifeline in the pitch-black void. As they entered the vast space, they scanned the ceiling with their flashlights, hoping against hope to find the missing father and son. Within moments, the harsh reality set in. Just 6 feet from the entrance, they spotted Dillon's lifeless body floating near the ceiling. His emergency flotation devices were deployed, but his mouthpiece had fallen out, and his tanks were empty. It was clear that Dillon had panicked, lost the line to the ballroom exit, and searched blindly along the ceiling. Given the vastness of the ballroom, finding the exit without guidance was nearly impossible. Local divers often say that losing the line means it's just a matter of time before your air runs out and you still can't find the exit. The rescue divers carefully retrieved Dillon's body and continued their search, knowing they were likely to find Darrin further down in the cave. Initially, they assumed Darrin would be somewhere near Dillon, likely searching for the way out along the ceiling. After a while of unsuccessful searching, they decided to dive to the bottom of the ballroom and check the floor. Following the guideline to the bottom, they soon found Darrin lying on a sandy slope near the infamous Grim Reaper sign. His mouthpiece had also fallen out, and his tanks were empty. It became evident that Darrin had passed out first and sank to the bottom. Dillon, still alive and with a bit of air left, had desperately tried to find the exit but had gotten lost. Both Darrin and Dillon's dive gauges showed they had descended to a depth of 230 feet, far beyond the safe limit for recreational diving. Despite the numerous warnings and the well-known dangers of Eagle's Nest, the allure of exploring the unknown proved too strong for Darrin Spivey and Dillon Sanchez. Their tragic deaths serve as a sobering reminder of the risks involved in cave diving, especially for those who are inexperienced and untrained. Since their accident, other divers have faced similar fates in the treacherous depths of Eagle's Nest, which the Faculty of Truth will cover in detail in future videos.